What if I told you that the best way to think isn't to think harder? Today, we're going to dive into a pretty revolutionary idea from author Annie Murphy Paul. She argues that our biggest, most important breakthroughs happen when we stop trying to just force it with our brains and start using the world around us.
I mean, we've all heard this, right? Use your head. You're stuck in a problem, and what's the first piece of advice you always get? Focus. Concentrate. Just, power through it with sheer brain power. It's kind of the mantra of our whole world.
But what if that's just the worst advice you could possibly get? What if the real key to thinking better isn't about digging deeper inside your own head, but actually looking outside of it? Seriously, what if relying only on your brain is the very thing holding you back?
Okay, so this brings us right to our first section, the brainbound myth. And it's this idea, this assumption, that all the real thinking, the important stuff, has to happen inside our heads. An idea that, as we're about to see, is, well, it's just plain wrong.
Look, the truth is, our brain is amazing, but it's not a superhero. It has some really hard limits. Our attention span, it's not infinite. Our working memory, it's actually surprisingly small. And thinking in pure abstract logic, that doesn't really come naturally to us. So just trying to push this amazing but limited organ harder and harder, that's not the road to genius. It's a one-way ticket to burnout.
And this is why we really need to update our whole metaphor for the brain. For so long, we've thought of it like a computer, right? Just this self-contained box processing whatever's inside. But a much, much better way to think about it is like a magpie. A clever, resourceful bird that doesn't just work with what it has, but goes out and builds its nest, or in our case, our thoughts, by gathering all sorts of materials from the outside world, from our bodies, from our surroundings, and from other people.
So, if being brainbound is the problem, then what's the solution? Well, it's this really powerful concept called the extended mind.
The core idea here is that we don't just think in our heads, we think with the world around us. Thinking isn't just this quiet, internal thing. No, it's an active, dynamic loop. We're constantly pulling in resources from our own bodies, from the rooms we're in, and from the people we talk to. It's all about getting smarter by using everything outside the brain.
Okay, so where do we even start with this? Well, how about with the one thinking tool that you have with you literally all the time, your body? Let's dig into how our physical selves can actually make us smarter.
All right, check this out. There's this guy, Dr. Jeff Fiddler, a radiologist. And his job is, it's incredibly tough mentally. He has to stare at scans all day long, trying to spot these tiny, tiny abnormalities. He made one simple change to his routine. He switched to a treadmill desk, and what happened next was honestly pretty remarkable. Get this. His detection rate for these super dangerous irregularities, it shot up to an unbelievable 99%. Just the simple act of walking while he worked sharpened his perception that much. He was, quite literally, thinking with his body.
And here's the cool part. You can do this too. There are a few ways. First, start listening to your body's internal signals. Your gut feelings. There's a whole science to this. It's called interoception. And it turns out it really helps guide better decisions. Second, bring in some movement, just like Dr. Fiddler did. And third, use your hands when you think. You know how some people talk with their hands? That's not just for show. Gesturing actually helps you shape your thoughts and take some of the load off your brain.
Okay, so beyond our bodies, the next place our mind extends to is our physical surroundings. We're talking about the spaces we live and work in, both natural and man-made.
I love this story. Think about Jonas Salk, right? The guy who invented the polio vaccine. He was completely stuck, hit a wall. So what did he do? He traveled to this 13th century monastery in Italy. And he later said that the architecture itself, the feeling of the space, was what sparked the very breakthrough he needed. His environment wasn't just some passive backdrop. It was an active partner in his thinking.
And this is exactly why the space you're in matters so much. We've all been in those cognitively draining spaces, right? Like a loud, distracting open-plan office. They just suck the energy right out of you. But then there are these other spaces. A walk in the woods, a quiet library, even just your own desk that you've set up just right. These places can actually restore our ability to think, they can lower our stress, and they can totally spark new ideas.
And that brings us to the final, and maybe the most powerful extension of our mind, other people. At our core, we are social creatures, and the simple truth is, we often think best when we think together.
So how does this work? Well, there are a few key ways. We can think with experts, basically learning by watching and imitating how they think.
We can think with our peers, sharpening our own ideas by arguing and debating. And we can think in groups, which is amazing because you create this kind of shared memory. Not everyone has to know everything. You just need to know who to ask. And when that happens, the intelligence of the whole group just skyrockets, becoming way more than any one person could manage alone.
All right, so when you start putting all of this together, your body, your surroundings, other people, what do you actually get? Well, what you get is a completely new way of looking at intelligence itself.
This is really the big takeaway. Intelligence isn't some fixed thing, like a lump of smarts you were born with inside your head. It's not a noun, it's a verb. It's a dynamic process. True intelligence is the skill of conducting this incredible orchestra of resources. Your brain, sure, but also your body, your spaces, and your relationships, and getting them all to work together to create your very best thinking.
So here's a little toolkit for how you can start extending your own mind. First, stop trying to hold everything in your head. Offload it. Write it down on a sticky note. Sketch it on a whiteboard. Second, make your ideas physical. Turn an abstract concept into a little model or a diagram you can actually touch and move around. Third, change your physical state. Feeling stuck? Get up and take a walk. Fourth, use the space around you to organize your thoughts. And finally, and this is a big one, go find someone to think with.
So there it is. Your mind isn't just trapped inside your skull. It's so much bigger than that. It extends out into the entire world. The only question left is, how are you going to use all of it?